Okay, Alice, would you like to get us started?
I sure do. Good afternoon. Welcome to the second in our series of educational webinars, How to Access and Use the Exhibitor Resource Center. My name is Alice Konopasek, and I'm a NAFEM team member at headquarters here in Chicago. And here with me today are Jackie Janis, our Senior Exhibits Manager, and Kelsey Kwasniak, our Senior Exhibits Coordinator. As noted, this is the second webinar in our educational series, and during the next few months, we'll continue to present webinars on topics you'll find useful. To find out what we have scheduled, take a look at the NAFEM Show site at thenafemshow.org. Go to the Exhibitor Education section of the under Resources and sign up there. Some information before we get started. Kelsey's going to cover some of this further on, but want to point out a few things right now. So, as you know, show dates are February 26th through 28th at the Georgia World Congress Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Show days are Wednesday through Friday, with a kickoff party on Tuesday evening. Entertainment for the NAFEM party is being finalized, but the NAFEM party itself takes place at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Thursday, February 27th from 7 to 11. Be sure when registering your team, you purchase tickets for the party. Backed by popular demand is What's Hot, What's Cool. You are invited to submit for consideration a product that is either new, which means it was introduced after the last show, or a working prototype not yet in the market. For those of you unfamiliar with What's Hot, What's Cool, it's a standalone new product gallery where attendees can view new products on the show floor at their leisure without any salespeople kind of lurking over them. So it's been a well-received gallery for us in the past, and which is why it's been brought back. So only 75 products will be selected. So get those entries in, and the entry must be submitted by 5 p.m. Central Time on October 11th. So you have some time, but not a whole lot of time. Hosted buyer program. So you are encouraged to invite your customers to apply for the show's hosted buyer program. If eligible, they will receive free show registration, airfare or mileage allowance of up to $300, up to 4 nights hotel in our block, a ticket to the NAFEM hosted networking events, and access to the hosted buyer lounge. The value is estimated at $2,000. So really, you are encouraged to ask invite your customers to apply because they can attend the show for free. So go check it out. Also want to let you know that advertising is available at the show. And Kelsey will tell you where to find the information about that a little bit later, but we want you to know that's available. So to promote your presence and drive traffic to your booth by perhaps purchasing a digital or on-site placement at the show. So about today's webinar. If you have questions during today's webinar, please send them to us by using the Q&A function in your Zoom webinar control panel. We'll answer everything we can, and if we run out of time or don't get to your question, we'll get back to you as soon as possible after the webinar with the information that you need. If you have a question that's specific to your company and booth layout, we ask that you send that to us by email at info@thenafemshow.org, and our team can assist you further with that and just be a little bit more personal with that. And so please do that. All webinars are recorded and are available to you in the Exhibitor Education section of the show website at thenafemshow.org under Resources. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey to talk about what you came to hear, how to access and use the Exhibitor Resource Center. Kelsey, take it away.
Great. Thanks, Alice. So before we get started today, do appreciate everyone joining. You're going to see our agenda shown here. So today we are going to, of course, review the Exhibitor Resource Center, how to log in, our exhibitor checklist and forms, which are included in the Exhibitor Resource Center, some upcoming important dates, and then we'll finish with Q&A. So we have a few topics to cover today, so let's go ahead and get started. So before we start showing what the Exhibitor Resource Center looks like, just wanted to review login instructions. So September 18th, which is today, all trade show contacts received an email noting that the Exhibitor Resource Center, or the ERC, is live. So just note that trade show contacts will now be able to, as of today, use your NAFEM member dashboard sign in to access the Exhibitor Resource Center. Keep in mind that companies do have to have a booth on the floor plan in order to access the ERC. You also need to have 50% of your payment due at this time in order to be placed on the floor plan and to access the Exhibitor Resource Center. So if you're viewing this webinar today or in a recording after, if you have submitted your contract but not remitted your payment or have not been placed on the floor, just know that you will not be able to access the Exhibitor Resource Center until you have done so. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Exhibitor Resource Center together. So right here is on our home page is where you're going to log in using your NAFEM member sign in. Keep in mind when you first log in, you will be able to toggle between companies if you are a trade show contact with multiple companies. Once you're logged in, this is what your home page will look like. So there's quite a few tiles on this main page here. So let's take some time to review them. First on this main page is our exhibitor checklist. You can access this by clicking on the View Full Checklist here or on the left-hand side. Before we go into the checklist, I do want to highlight that whenever you log into the Exhibitor Resource Center, you can easily see any kind of items that are past due, upcoming deadlines, or items that you've completed. So looking at the checklist, let's start here with these items here. NAFEM has already pre-populated the checklist so that you have all of the items that you could need to ensure that your company is ready for the show. Of course, if you need to add an item, let's say it's specific to your company, you can also add a checklist item just for your company by selecting Add Item here. You can put in a title, a URL, and maybe some comments. This will be specific to your team and your Exhibitor Resource Center. Once you hit Save, it'll be part of your checklist. In your checklist, you can also sort by due date, by category, by vendor, or by the item, just by clicking right here. So you can make sure that you don't miss any of our deadlines. And keep in mind, as you complete these items, you can go ahead and check the box off. Let's go back to our home page and moving on to our Contact Us tile. If for any reason you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact our team via our phone number listed here, or when you click this button here, it'll pre-populate with an email to info@thenafemshow.org. We're more than happy to respond to any inquiries that you might have. Next, let's take a look at My Account. My Account will relate to any invoice that you have specific to your company that you're logged in as. So when I select Make Payment, it will show if you've already made your complete payment, if you still owe a balance. And keep in mind, if you're a trade show contact that manages multiple companies, you will need to be able to toggle between those companies. What that means is that when you log into the Exhibitor Resource Center, you will only be able to access one company at a time. Here's where you can download your statement, and you can also make any kind of payment via credit card, ACH wire, or check, depending on what your preference is. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our Exhibitor Services Manual. The Exhibitor Services Manual is specific to our official show contractor, Freeman, where you can easily create an account or you can log in using a pre-existing account to then be able to place any orders that you need. This might be material handling, rigging, or any other kind of install, dismantle kind of services that you need to order for your booth. Moving on to the exhibitor registration dashboard, if we select here, a very nifty feature that we have is if you select Register Now to register your booth staff, you're automatically going to be logged in, as you can see, as your company. So you don't have to log in twice. You can easily just click that button, Register Now, and you're brought to our registration dashboard. This is also where you'll be able to later on before the show, pull an attendee list, as well as any kind of booth promotions and any kind of additional staff that you need to add. So it'll be your registration dashboard. Next, let's review the booth diagram submissions. There's a couple links here. One links to our rules and regulations, as well as our booth diagram submission form. Keep in mind, this is required for all companies who manufacture walk-in coolers, refrigerators and freezers, peninsula booths, island booths, or any companies who had a booth violation in 2023. We also highly recommend, if you're a company, especially an inline company, if you'd like us to review your booth diagram and you don't fall into any of these categories, we're more than happy to do so. You'll just select Submit Booth Diagram here, and then you'll be able to see our easy to complete form. Only takes about 5 minutes to do so, where you can also upload your booth drawing or your renderings. Once you've uploaded your booth diagram, our team is then able to review this in the Exhibitor Resource Center on our end and provide any kind of feedback, approval, or denial in which you might need to resubmit something if it does not follow NAFEM's show rules and regulations. And as a reminder, those booth diagram submissions are going to be due November 8th. So while it is September, we do highly recommend sending those as soon as you do have them so we can provide the necessary approval. Next, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our hotel accommodations. Many of those on this webinar may have already booked their hotel rooms, but if you haven't yet, you can easily do so through the Exhibitor Resource Center by selecting Exhibitor and booking those rooms. Next, as Alice mentioned, we do have advertising opportunities for exhibitors to be able to take on for 2025. You can easily review the opportunities. This links directly to our website where you can review the opportunities as well as submit any contract. We do still have availability. Of course, those spots do fill up. So we highly recommend that if you're interested, and again, if you have any questions, you can always email info@thenafemshow.org. Moving on with the exhibitor appointed contractor, or with EACA, who we work with, to ensure that if you are choosing not to work with our official show contractor, Freeman, you'll need to register your EAC. This does need to be done by January 17th. Otherwise, there may be a challenge where your EAC team may not be able to arrive on site and have access to your booth. So you definitely want to make sure that you have them registered. Similar to the registration dashboard, this is set up where if you select this button here, it'll automatically log you in to the EACA website where you can easily register that exhibitor appointed contractor who will be installing, dismantling, designing your booth. Next, we'll take a look at exhibitor education. Webinars like today's, as well as other resource videos, can easily be accessed from the ERC, also on our website here. Today's webinar will be added shortly after, usually within about 24 hours or so. So you'll have that there, so you can always reference this video or any other kind of helpful resource videos. Next, looking at our budget calculator. This is something that we released earlier when we launched our contracts in the summer. This also links to our website where if you need to estimate the cost, and I mean the total cost of your booth, not just the cost that per your invoice with NAFEM, you can easily take a look through some of these very standard kind of fees in terms of flooring, tables, furniture, material handling, so that it helps your team to make sure that you have a good estimate of costs. Next, looking at our Georgia World Congress Center guide. This guide is especially important if you have an exhibit that is going to be multi-level. If you have equipment in your booth that you're going to be operating, meaning let's say you have an oven that you'll be turning on and cooking with and demonstrating the product, you'll want to make sure you review the GWCC guide. It opens to a PDF here where it has their specific rules and regulations and any kind of approval that you may need to get from the Georgia World Congress Center to be able to have that multi-level exhibit or equipment in which you're able to access it and operate it on site. Next, we can also look at our FAQs, our frequently asked questions page. takes us right to our website. NAFEM does continually add to this as other questions do come up, but as of today, you can find answers to a lot of those common questions on our FAQ page. As we alluded to earlier, talking about booth diagram submissions, we highly recommend reviewing our rules and regulations. This could be for anything in regards to food sampling, alcohol sampling, the construction of your booth, which is at the end of these rules and regulations, where you can find very helpful pictures to make sure that you're not violating any of NAFEM's rules or regulations. Next, we have a link here to Atlanta's local restaurant map. Very helpful tool here so that you can plan any team dinners for your staff or clients that you might be taking out local to the area. And finally, on this homepage here, as Alice also mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, we have our What's Hot, What's Cool application here. So if there's an opportunity you see where you'd like to showcase a new product innovation, you can definitely submit here. When you select here, it also includes, as Alice mentioned, our requirements to make sure that you do meet these requirements before you submit your application. And as a reminder, the deadline for submissions is October 11th by 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now that we've reviewed the home page, let's also take a look at the forms on the left-hand side here. This forms page, which also a lot of which is included in your checklist on the left-hand side or on the home page, includes all of our key forms, requests, or different items you might need to review. So for example, if you plan to have alcohol samples in your booth, the form is right here. You can easily review that. If you have any questions, you can also use any kind of keywords. So maybe you're looking for food and beverage, like a sampling form. You can search food and you'll find that form here. You can also find optional items that you can add to your booth, like the floral form, refrigeration, as well as utilities. So do take advantage of taking a look down this form list and make sure that you have everything that you need for your booth. Again, as a repeat of this information, all of these forms are also in your checklist, but if you're looking for something very specific, you can also use this forms feature. Now I'll go back into our PowerPoint here. As a reminder, in addition to what we just reviewed, we also have a quick resource video, which is going to be linked in the slide deck here. And we also will share on our website very shortly after today's webinar. So if you need a quick review, let's say under 5 to 7 minutes, then you can easily do so by reviewing that quick resource video. As a review of our important dates as they're upcoming, November 1st, your remaining 50% booth payment is going to be due. Note that NAFEM will retain 25% of the total booth fee for all space reductions or cancellations occurring between space selection and November 1st. After November 1st, the full balance is due on any reduced or canceled booths. As I mentioned earlier, November 8th is the deadline to submit detailed floor plans for any exhibitor occupying an island, split island, peninsula, modified peninsula, or manufacturers of any walk-in coolers, refrigerators, and or freezers, or those who have any written booth violations notices from 2023. As I noted earlier, we highly recommend if you have an inline or a smaller corner booth space, we highly recommend that you submit a diagram, as our team can take a look at that and provide you that approval, give you that peace of mind to make sure that our team on site does not have to have you modify your booth while you're designing it and building it in person. This gives you that peace of mind. You know you have your approval and you can easily set up your booth on site. And of course, we include the link here also in the Exhibitor Resource Center that ongoing educational webinars and videos will be added to the website here. Now I'm going to go ahead and invite Alice and Jackie back on so we can take some Q&A. And I will stop sharing my screen. There we go. Just a little delay in the video. Hi, everyone.
Okay, so first question up. What is the first? It says, what login information do I use to access the Exhibitor Resource Center?
Good question. So you'll want to make sure that you're using your NAFEM member dashboard sign-in. And let's say you have an updated contact, maybe the contact has changed at your company. You can easily do so by logging into your NAFEM member dashboard with the current login information and switching that to a new contact. Otherwise, if you are having challenges getting into your member dashboard, you can also email info@thenafemshow.org.
What happens if my contact person changes and I need to update that to access the Exhibitor Resource Center?
Oh, I just answered that one.
I know you
Okay. But yeah, so if you need to change it again, we recommend using the current trade show contacts login to get into the member dashboard. But if for some reason you're still having challenges, that's not a problem. Just go ahead and email info@thenafemshow.org and we'll make sure you get access.
Or, you can go to, because it's NAFEM.org related, so it
Yep.
ties to info@NAFEM.org. So either way.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have another one that says, how do you toggle between the companies? So if you have multiple companies, how do you toggle between both or multiple?
It's a great question. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen one more time just to give everyone that visual. So let me go back here. So let me give it a quick refresh. So let me just sign out. There we go. So once you log in, you will see a screen where you're going to be able to, you'll see multiple companies linked. If you're the trade show contact for 10 companies, all 10 of those companies will show and you'll be able to select that company. So just keep in mind that unfortunately, you're not able to access all 10 companies at the same time, but you are able to access one at a time. And this will ensure that you're not, let's say, confusing one order for another. If you're ordering, let's say, carpet through Freeman, you're able to log in, order for that company, log out, log back in for the next company to place those orders. And this way it ensures that anything that you're ordering for each individual booth does not get confused.
Yeah, and just to kind of add to that, so after you actually physically sign in and hit the login button, your companies will be displayed individually. If you, for example, are logged in as one company, just make sure you close that window and go back to the sign-in window so it allows you to kind of officially log out to log back into a different company.
Do we know when Target move-in dates will be available?
Yeah, so it's going to be, I would say, by the end of the month. We're still working with Freeman based on some recent floor plan changes and new exhibitors that have been added. So we will be communicating to all exhibitor once the Target move-in has been made live. It will also be updated in the exhibitor resources checklist and links that Kelsey just reviewed. So you will see it in your ERC once it's available. And if you need to make changes, which I believe is another question that came through, there will be an email address that you can email directly if you're looking to make a change based on what your target floor plan time originally assigned time was.
Thank you. Are the NAFEM show logos available through the Exhibitor Resource Center to use pre-show promo? As a matter of fact, we were just talking about this before we came onto this webinar, and yes, they will be available to you. So they're not out there right now. They will be available to you. So that would be a place that you'll be able to find those.
I would say within 24 hours, you'll see that on the homepage. You'll see a tile for it, just like everything else on the ERC.
Well, so someone wrote in, an anonymous attendee asked, where do we find information regarding the U.S. Culinary Open, the event space and schedule? So U.S. Culinary Open is actually going to have their inaugural event. It will take place out on the show floor during the NAFEM show. And information about that is actually, we just will be on our site actually at the end of the week. So we are working on copy and including that adding that to our site. So be on the lookout for it, and we'll send out communication on that as well. So there's that. And is there a certain drawing form for the booth, or do I make one up?
It's a good question. So we know it varies based on, your booth size and, maybe what you typically design for your booth. So we know that for, some companies, you might hire a design house to create and design your booth, or you're working with an exhibitor appointed contractor where they will create a diagram for you typically. And it's typically a PDF file that you're submitting to us in addition to the other information we request from you in that quick form that you're submitting through the Exhibitor Resource Center. However, we know that not everyone necessarily needs to work with another company to design their booth. So we do say that if it's I would say as clean of a drawing as you can, just to show us really the heights of your items in your booth. And really just so that we can ensure that there's no, let's say, sound interferences or height interferences, as we want to make sure everyone has a great show. So it doesn't have to be a super professional PDF if that's not something you typically do, working with another company to design your booth. But as long as it's a very clear drawing in a Word or PDF document, that helps our team review it and make sure that you're abiding by those rules and regulations.
So someone is asking about who will be performing at the NAFEM party. And we don't know that yet. Well, it's in the works. We will let you know that as soon as everything is confirmed, but we're working on it. It's going to be at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, though. Did we tell you that? It'll be at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And you have a link to the GWCC electric order. Is that included within the Exhibitor Resource Center?
So
Yeah,
if you
great question. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep, if you log into the ERC, as Kelsey kind of navigated earlier, there's a couple ways you can find it. You can either find it in the checklist. Edlin is the provider
Right
at the GWCC that does all utilities. So they have kind of a one-stop form for all utilities, plumbing, electric, water, all that good stuff. And you can order directly through their online portal.
So if you saw where, as Jackie's guiding me here, if you're in the checklist, we have a checklist item. It's also in the forms on the left-hand side. And you can find all of those utilities by clicking here. And then here is the portal into Edlin's system. So you can place for any kind of utility needs that you have.
So
I think there was another question too, about the advanced warehouse and shipping deadlines. So that is all located in the Exhibitor Resources Center under like the Freeman Online portion. So if Kelsey can kind of show that to you, you'll access it from the homepage and you will click on Exhibitor Services Manual. And you'll be able to navigate to the shipping. Yep, you can find it in the quick facts. There's the advanced warehouse shipments and then also direct shipping information.
Yep.
Located in there and dates and deadlines in which freight will be received.
That's a lot of good info. Okay. Here's another question. Can we provide our own flooring? And the second question, are details about hanging signs and how they are built also in the forms? Or are they in the rules and regs? Where are they at?
Yeah, so the first question is, can you bring your own flooring? The answer is yes. NAFEM does require all exhibitors to have finished flooring. So as long as the flooring covers your entire purchased square footage of your booth, you're able to provide your own flooring. And the second question is about hanging signs. So two parts here. Our rules and regulations indicate the parameters in which booths that are allowed to hang signs. They also provide the height restrictions in which they have to be hung. And then Freeman is the rigging provider at the GWCC. So their rigging form is located in the Exhibitor Services Manual, located in the ERC.
And also to that point, there was a question about how they're built. We do occasionally get the question of if you want to design a hanging sign. So if you don't already have a hanging sign, Freeman does provide design services as well. So you can also request a quote, an estimate, and their team can also design a hanging sign if you need to place an order for one as well.
Yes, and if you have an existing one that needs to be built, they do have labor that can build it before they rig it. That is just all something you have to order with Freeman ahead of time.
Does it state in there too what the deadlines are though, so they have enough time to do what they need? It's all in there.
Yep.
Yep.
Can you use an electrical distribution box? Do we know that?
So without too much detail here, I guess, going off of assumptions. So there are, as many of you know, electrical floor ports throughout the entire show floor. Generally speaking, they're every 30 feet, so likely there is something close to your booth, and you have to physically order and fill out the form for electrical if you're requiring power. There will not be any like self-service plug into the floor type of situation. If you need power, you have to at least order a power drop, and they would provide the power and route it to your booth, and then you would have the ability to plug in what you need at your booth, depending on, you know, what electrical needs you have. If it's just something as simple as a laptop versus something more intense or more wattage needed, you know, for equipment purposes.
Okay.
And I just want to add to what Jackie mentioned, as we have reviewed all of those key deadlines and items, we know it's robust. And so depending on the size of your booth, you may have many checklist items that you might need to walk through. So we always highly recommend, especially with utilities, with anything, you know, really in that checklist, to, you know, get started on those earlier rather than later. Those deadlines are, you know, very firm. So to ensure that everyone is ready for the show. So if there are any questions, or maybe you have a very specific booth setup, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, info@thenafemshow.org, and we're more than happy to answer those questions so that you can complete those forms and get those orders in.
So, Jackie, you see that someone else, or the same person, to come back and say that the order would be one drop to distribute instead of each one individually.
Yeah, so again, we can work with you one-off, and you can also work with Edlin depending on your exact needs, but regardless of your needs, you do have to purchase a power drop through Edlin, which they will then run something to your booth location. From there, depending on what you need exactly, if it's, again, if you want to bring your own extension cord and run one thing, you know, it all depends on the usage that you need. And we would have you work with Edlin on that directly, and what you can provide versus what they have to actually physically install.
Okay. I think we have answered all questions that have been submitted. So, I would ask, is there anything else you would like to add, ladies?
Nope. We just ask that if you are having any trouble logging in or have any questions as you kind of get more familiar with the ERC, our team is readily available to help you. We do have the ability to log in on kind of your behalf to kind of see what you're seeing if you're running into any errors. So just, you know, as we always say, email us. We are available to you, and all the deadlines are in there. And we encourage you to really take advantage of those discount deadlines, because they will significantly help your savings as you kind of prepare for the show.
Great. Well, thank you. So just a reminder, recording of today's webinar will be posted by tomorrow for reference on the NAFEM show sites. And if you haven't already, sign up for the next webinar taking place on October 9th at 2 p.m. Central, titled "Be a Good Neighbor and Avoid On-Site Booth Violations." So that's it. Thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.